I never thought I'd become the bargaining chip. But here I was, standing in my stepbrother's bedroom, staring at the empty closet where his clothes used to hang. 3 days. That's how long Minho had been missing. 3 days before he was supposed to sign a contract marriage with the most feared pack in Seattle, the cursed triplet alphas of the Choi family. And my parents? They didn't waste a single breath mourning his disappearance. They just decided I'd take his place. My name is Jaehyun, and I've spent my entire life being invisible. Not because I wanted to be, but because next to Minho's brilliance, I was easy to overlook. He was the golden son, charming, ambitious, a beta with connections that made our parents glow with pride. I was just there, the quiet Omega stepson they'd inherited when my mother married into the Kang family. Jaehyun! My stepfather's voice cut through my thoughts like a blade. He stood in the doorway, arms crossed, his face carved from stone. Pack your things. You're moving to the Choi estate tomorrow. My stomach dropped. You can't be serious. Deadly serious. He stepped inside, his presence suffocating the small room. Minho signed that contract. The Choi family paid the bride price. If we don't deliver, they'll destroy us. Our business, our reputation, everything. Then find Minho, I shot back, my voice trembling, despite my effort to sound strong. He's your real son, not me. Something dark flickered across his face. Minho is gone. You're here. That's all that matters. I'm not him. My hands curled into fists at my sides. I won't pretend to be. You won't have to pretend. My mother appeared behind him, her expression carefully neutral. She'd perfected that look over the years, the one that said she cared without actually feeling anything. The Choi family doesn't care which Kang Omega they get. The contract states an Omega heir. You qualify. The words hit me like a slap. An Omega heir. That's all I was to them. Interchangeable. Replaceable. What if I refuse? I whispered. My stepfather's jaw tightened. Then we lose everything, and I'll make sure you understand exactly what that means. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to something cold and final. You owe us, Jaehyun. Your mother married into this family with nothing. We gave you a home, education, safety. This is how you repay that debt. The room felt too small, the air too thick. I wanted to scream, to run, to disappear the way Minho had. But I knew the truth. I had nowhere to go. The car leaves at 8 tomorrow morning, my stepfather said, turning toward the door. Be ready. My mother lingered for just a moment, her gaze softening in that performative way that never reached her heart. It's just a contract, Jaehyun. 1 year. You fulfill the terms and you're free. It's not the end of the world. But as she walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that it was exactly that. That night, I barely slept. I sat by the window, staring out at the Seattle skyline, the city lights blurring through the glass. Somewhere out there, Minho was living his life, free from the consequences of his choices, and I was the one left holding the pieces. I thought about the Choi triplets. Everyone in our world knew their names. Choi Jaehyun, Choi Silas, and Choi Ryu. 3 alphas born under a blood moon, cursed from birth. Rumors swirled around them like smoke. Some said they couldn't control their alpha instincts, that their pheromones were so potent they drove omegas into dangerous heats. Others whispered darker things, that anyone who got too close to them ended up broken, or worse. The curse was vague, the details hidden behind layers of family secrecy. But one thing was certain. No one wanted to marry them, except Minho had agreed. For money, for status, for whatever selfish reason had driven him to sign that contract. And now I was walking into his trap. The next morning came too quickly. I stood in the foyer with a single suitcase, my hands numb from gripping the handle too tight. My mother fussed with my collar, smoothing down invisible wrinkles, her touch clinical. Remember, she murmured, be polite, be obedient. Don't cause trouble. I wanted to laugh, or cry. Maybe both. Jaehyun, my stepfather's tone was sharp. The driver is waiting. I turned toward the door, my heart hammering so loudly I thought it might burst through my ribs. The black car idling outside looked like a hearse. Sleek, expensive, final. As I stepped into the cold morning air, I glanced back one last time. My mother stood in the doorway, her face carefully blank. My stepfather had already disappeared back into the house. Neither of them said goodbye. The drive to the Choi estate took 40 minutes, though it felt like seconds and hours all at once. The driver didn't speak, and I was grateful for the silence. It gave me time to breathe, to steady the panic clawing at my chest. When we finally pulled through the iron gates, my breath caught. The estate was massive, sprawling grounds surrounded by dense forests, the main house a blend of modern glass and traditional Korean architecture. It looked beautiful and terrifying. The car stopped in front of the entrance, and the driver opened my door without a word. I stepped out, my legs shaking, my suitcase feeling heavier than it should. The front door opened, and that's when I saw him. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark hair falling just above sharp, piercing eyes. He wore a black suit that fit him like a second skin, his presence so commanding that the air itself seemed to shift around him. His gaze locked onto mine, and I felt it. A pull, deep and primal, like something inside me recognized him before my mind could catch up. Minho. His voice was low, smooth, edged with something I couldn't name. My throat tightened. This was it. The moment I dreaded. I opened my mouth, the lie trembling on my tongue, but the words wouldn't come. Because standing there under the weight of his stare, I realized something. He wasn't just an alpha. He was dangerous, and I'd just walked into his world with no way out. My voice cracked. I'm not Minho. His eyes narrowed. Behind him, two more figures emerged from the shadows of the house, both just as tall, just as imposing, both staring at me like I was a puzzle they couldn't solve. The triplets. My heart stopped. Then who? The first alpha said slowly, his voice dropping into something darker. Are you? I swallowed hard, my hands trembling at my sides. I'm Jaehyun, I whispered, Minho's stepbrother. Silence. The three of them stared at me, their expressions unreadable. Their combined presence so overwhelming I thought my knees might give out. And then, the alpha in the center, the one who'd spoken first, stepped closer. So close I could feel the heat radiating from his body. Where, he said, his tone lethal, is Minho? I forced myself to meet his eyes even though every instinct screamed at me to look away. I don't know. My voice was steadier now, fueled by something sharp and bitter. He disappeared 3 days ago, and my family sent me here instead. The silence that followed was suffocating. And then, one of the other alphas, the one with lighter hair and eyes like steel, laughed. But it wasn't warm, it was cold, mocking. So they sent us a replacement. He tilted his head, studying me like I was something fragile, breakable. How generous. The third alpha, quieter than the others, said nothing. But his gaze burned into me, sharp and assessing. The first alpha leaned in, his voice a whisper that sent chills down my spine. Do you have any idea what you just walked into? My breath hitched. No, I admitted. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Good, he said softly. Because if you did, you'd run. I should have run. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to turn around, to get back in that car and beg the driver to take me anywhere else. But my legs wouldn't move. I stood frozen, trapped between the three of them like prey caught in a snare. The alpha in front of me, the one who'd spoken, straightened slowly. His eyes never left mine, dark and unreadable, and I felt the weight of his gaze like a physical touch. Jaehyun, he repeated, tasting my name like it was something foreign, something unwanted. And your family thought we wouldn't notice the difference? They thought you wouldn't care. The words slipped out before I could stop them, sharp and bitter. His brow arched. Bold. Stupid, the second alpha corrected from behind him, the one with lighter hair and that cruel, mocking smile. He stepped forward, circling me like a wolf sizing up a meal. You walked into a contract you didn't sign. Do you even know what that means? I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. It means I'm here because my stepbrother was a coward. The third alpha, the quiet one, finally spoke. His voice was softer than the others, but no less dangerous. And you think that makes you brave? No. I met his gaze even though my heart was trying to claw its way out of my chest. It makes me desperate. Silence fell again, thick and suffocating. The first alpha studied me for a long moment, then turned away, his shoulders tense. Bring him inside. Wait. I took a step forward, my voice cracking. What happens now? Do you send me back? He paused, his back still to me. Send you back? The second alpha laughed again, that same cold, humorless sound. You're already here. The contract is binding. Whether you signed it or not doesn't matter. My stomach dropped. That's not fair. Fair? The first alpha turned slowly, and the look in his eyes made my breath catch. Nothing about this is fair. Not for you, not for us. He stepped closer, and I had to tilt my head back to keep looking at him. But you're here now, and you'll stay until we figure out what to do with you. The quiet alpha moved then, coming to stand beside the first. Up close, I could see the differences between them more clearly. The first had sharp, aristocratic features, his jaw tight with controlled anger. The second was leaner, his smile sharp as a blade. And the third watched me with something softer. Curiosity, maybe, or pity. Take him to the East Wing, the first alpha said, his tone final, and make sure he doesn't leave. You're locking me up? I couldn't keep the disbelief out of my voice. We're keeping you safe. The quiet alpha's voice was gentle, almost apologetic. Until we know what your family is playing at? I told you, I don't know anything. My voice rose, panic bubbling up in my throat. Minho disappeared. They forced me here. That's all I know. The first alpha's gaze softened, just barely. Then you're as much a pawn as we are? Before I could respond, he turned and walked back into the house, his footsteps echoing against the marble floor. The second alpha gestured toward the door, that mocking smile still in place. After you, replacement. I wanted to argue, to scream, to demand answers. But I was alone, outnumbered, powerless. So I picked up my suitcase and walked inside. The East Wing was nothing like I expected. I'd imagined something cold, prison-like. But the room they led me to was beautiful. Warm wood floors, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the forest, a bed so large it could fit 3 people comfortably. There was even a small sitting area with a fireplace, the logs already crackling softly. It looked like a sanctuary. It felt like a cage. The quiet alpha set my suitcase down near the closet, then turned to face me. Up close, I could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the tension in his shoulders. I'm Ryu, he said softly. The one who brought you in is Jaehyun, and the other? The one who thinks this is funny, I muttered. Ryu's lips twitched, almost a smile. That's Silas. He doesn't mean half the things he says. And the other half? He means completely. I sat down on the edge of the bed, my legs finally giving out. My hands shook as I pressed them against my knees, trying to steady myself. What's going to happen to me? I whispered. Ryu was quiet for a moment. Then he crouched down in front of me, his gaze level with mine. I don't know, he admitted, but I promise you, we're not going to hurt you. Why should I believe that? My voice cracked. Everyone says you're cursed, that you're dangerous. Something flickered in his eyes. Pain, maybe, or regret. We are cursed, he said quietly. But not in the way people think. Then how? He stood, his expression closing off again. Get some rest. Someone will bring you dinner. Wait. I stood too, my heart racing. What kind of curse? What does it do? Ryu paused at the door, his hand on the frame. It kills the people we love, he said softly. And then he was gone. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I lay on that massive bed, staring at the ceiling, Ryu's words echoing in my mind over and over. It kills the people we love. What did that mean? How could love be deadly? And if it was true, then why had Minho agreed to marry them? What had he known that I didn't? The question spiraled, making my head ache. A soft knock on the door jolted me upright. Come in, I called, my voice hoarse. The door opened, and a young woman entered carrying a tray. She couldn't have been much older than me, her expression carefully neutral. "Dinner," she said simply, setting the tray on the small table near the window. "Thank you." I hesitated. "Can I ask you something?" She paused, her hand on the doorknob. "That depends on the question. The curse, is it real?" Her face went pale. For a moment I thought she might refuse to answer, but then she glanced toward the hallway, as if checking to make sure no one was listening. "It's real," she whispered. "I've been working here for 2 years. I've seen what happens when they—" She trailed off, shaking her head. "Just be careful. Don't get too close to them." "What happens if I do?" She looked at me then, and I saw genuine fear in her eyes. "You'll regret it." And then she left, closing the door softly behind her. I stared at the tray of food, my appetite gone. Hours passed. The house grew quiet, the only sounds the crackling of the fire and the wind rustling through the trees outside. I should have stayed in bed, should have followed the unspoken rule that I was supposed to remain in my room, out of sight, out of mind. But I'd never been good at following rules. I slipped out into the hallway, my bare feet silent against the hardwood floor. The house was even more massive than I'd realized, hallways stretching in every direction, doors leading to rooms I couldn't begin to guess the purpose of. I wandered aimlessly, drawn by curiosity and the suffocating need to understand where I was, what I'd walked into. That's when I heard the voices, low, tense, coming from behind a partially open door at the end of the hall. I knew I shouldn't eavesdrop, but I crept closer anyway, my heart pounding. "Can't just keep him here." That was Silas, his voice sharper than before, stripped of that mocking edge. "He's not Minho. He didn't agree to this. And if we let him go—" Jaehyun's voice was colder, harder. "His family will send someone else. Or worse, they'll claim breach of contract and come after us. So we're supposed to just trap him here? Use him like some pawn? We're already cursed, says Silas. What's one more sin?" The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I stepped back, my breath catching, but my foot caught on the edge of a rug, and I stumbled, my hand slamming against the wall to catch myself. The voices stopped. Footsteps. The door swung open, and Jaehyun stood there, his eyes blazing. "Were you listening?" I opened my mouth, but no words came out. He stepped into the hallway, closing the distance between us in 2 strides. His hand shot out, gripping my wrist, and I gasped at the heat of his touch. "I asked you a question." "Yes." The word came out as a whisper. "I was listening." His jaw tightened, his grip firm but not painful. "Then you heard enough to know you should stay in your room." "I heard enough to know you're keeping me here against my will." I forced myself to meet his gaze, even though every instinct screamed at me to look away. "You said I'm a pawn, just like you." Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe. "You don't understand what you've walked into," he said quietly. "Then explain it to me." "Why should I?" "Because I'm here." My voice shook, but I didn't back down. "Because whether I wanted this or not, I'm part of this now. And I deserve to know what I'm up against." For a long moment, he just stared at me. Then slowly, his grip on my wrist loosened. "Come with me," he said. "Where?" "Somewhere you can see the truth for yourself." I should have refused, should have demanded he let me go. But instead I followed him, down the hallway, down a set of stairs, through another wing of the house I hadn't seen before. And when he finally stopped in front of a heavy wooden door, my pulse was racing so hard I could feel it in my throat. He pushed the door open. Inside was a room lined with photographs, dozens of them, faces I didn't recognize, names etched beneath each frame. "These," Jaehyun said quietly, "are the people we've loved and lost." I stepped inside, my breath catching as I looked at the faces, young, old, smiling, hopeful. "The curse doesn't just kill them," he continued, his voice barely above a whisper. "It makes us watch, makes us feel it, every moment of their suffering." I turned to face him, my chest tight. "Then why did Minho agree to marry you?" Jaehyun's expression darkened. "Because your family needed our money, and we needed someone desperate enough not to care about the consequences." The words hung in the air between us, heavy and undeniable. "And now," he said, his gaze locking onto mine, You're that someone. I couldn't breathe. The photographs stared back at me, each face frozen in time, each name a reminder of someone who'd loved these alphas and paid for it with their lives. My hands trembled at my sides, my vision blurring as I tried to process what Jaehyun had just told me. You're saying, I whispered, my voice barely audible, that everyone you've ever loved has died because of this curse? Yes. The single word was cold, final. I turned to face him, my chest tight. Then why bring anyone into your lives at all? Why agree to a contract marriage if you know what will happen? His jaw tensed, his eyes hard. Because we had no choice. Everyone has a choice. Not when your family's survival depends on maintaining appearances. He stepped closer, and I instinctively backed up until my shoulders hit the wall. The curse doesn't care about logic, Jaehyun. It doesn't care about fairness. It just takes. Then let me go. My voice cracked. Send me back before it's too late. It's already too late. The words hit me like ice water. What do you mean? He didn't answer. Instead, he reached past me, his hand resting against the wall beside my head, trapping me in place. I could feel the heat radiating from his body, the sharp scent of cedar and smoke that clung to his skin. The moment you stepped onto this estate, he said quietly, the curse recognized you. It doesn't matter if you signed the contract or not. It doesn't matter if you're Minho or a stranger. You're here, and that's enough. My breath hitched. So I'm going to die. His gaze flickered, something almost like pain crossing his features. We don't know that yet. But you just said. I said the curse takes the people we love. His voice dropped lower, rougher. That doesn't mean we're going to let it take you. I stared at him, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. Why would you care? You don't even know me. For a moment he didn't respond. His eyes searched mine. And I saw something there I couldn't name, something raw and unguarded. Because you didn't deserve this, he said finally. And maybe, for once, we can stop it from happening. Before I could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway. Jaehyun pulled back immediately, his expression closing off as Silas appeared in the doorway. His eyes flicked between us, that sharp, mocking smile returning to his lips. Well, well, he drawled. Having a heart-to-heart, are we? Silas, Jaehyun warned, his tone edged with steel. What? I'm just curious. Silas stepped into the room, his gaze landing on me. Did he tell you about the curse? About how everyone who gets close to us ends up 6 feet under? Silas, Ryu's voice came from behind him, quieter but no less firm. That's enough. But Silas ignored him, his attention still fixed on me. Or maybe he didn't tell you the best part. Want to know what really happens when the curse activates? My throat tightened. They don't just die, Silas continued, his smile twisting into something cruel. They break, slowly, painfully, and we get to watch every second of it. Stop! Jaehyun's voice cut through the air like a blade. Silas's smile faded, replaced by something darker, angrier. Why? He deserves to know what he's walking into. Or are you planning to lie to him the way we've lied to everyone else? I'm not lying to him. No? Silas stepped closer to me, and I pressed harder against the wall, my pulse racing. Then tell him the truth, Jaehyun. Tell him what happened to the last person who tried to break the curse. Silence. Jaehyun's fists clenched at his sides, his jaw so tight I thought it might crack. There was someone else? I whispered. Ryu moved then, stepping between Silas and me, his expression pained. Jaehyun, you should go back to your room. No. I shook my head, my voice steadier now despite the fear clawing at my chest. I want to know. If I'm going to be stuck here, if I'm going to die because of this curse, then I deserve to know everything. Jaehyun's eyes met mine, and for the first time I saw something break in his expression, something vulnerable. Her name was Unbi, he said quietly. She was an Omega, kind, brave. She thought she could save us. My heart twisted. What happened to her? She tried to bond with us, Ryu said softly. She believed that if we completed a true mating bond, the curse would break. And? My voice trembled. Silas let out a bitter laugh. And she was wrong. The curse didn't break. It consumed her. 3 months after the bond formed, she started having seizures. Her body couldn't handle the weight of being connected to all three of us. By the end, she was begging us to let her go. I felt sick. We couldn't save her, Jaehyun said, his voice hollow. We tried everything. Every healer, every ritual, every desperate prayer. Nothing worked. And when she finally died, the curse made sure we felt every moment of it. Tears stung my eyes, though I didn't know if they were for Yumbi or for the three broken alphas standing in front of me. Why didn't you tell me this from the beginning? I whispered. Because, Ryu said gently, we didn't want to scare you more than you already were. Well, you failed. My voice cracked and I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to hold the pieces together. Because I'm terrified. Jaehyun stepped closer, his hand lifting as if to touch me, but he stopped himself. I know, he said quietly, and I'm sorry. The apology hung in the air between us, fragile and sincere. Silas turned away, his shoulders tense. We shouldn't have brought him here. This was a mistake. We didn't have a choice, Jaehyun said again. There's always a choice. Silas's voice was sharp, bitter. We just keep making the wrong ones. Ryu placed a hand on Silas's shoulder, but Silas shrugged it off, stalking out of the room without another word. The silence that followed was suffocating. I looked at Jaehyun, then at Ryu, my mind spinning with everything I'd just learned. What happens now? I asked, my voice small. Jaehyun's gaze softened, just slightly. Now you rest, and tomorrow, we figure out how to keep you alive. And if you can't? He didn't answer, but the look in his eyes told me everything I needed to know. I couldn't move. My legs felt like lead, my body frozen in place, as Jaehyun's words echoed in my mind. Tomorrow we figure out how to keep you alive. As if my survival was just another problem to solve, another variable in an equation they couldn't balance. Ryu stepped closer, his expression softer than the others, his hand hovering near my shoulder but not quite touching. Come on, let me walk you back. I wanted to refuse, wanted to demand more answers, more truth, something that would make sense of the nightmare I'd stumbled into. But my throat was too tight, my voice lost somewhere beneath the weight of everything I'd just learned. So I nodded. We walked in silence, Ryu beside me, Jaehyun a few steps behind. The hallway felt longer than before, the shadows deeper, the air heavier. Every step reminded me that I was trapped here, bound by a contract I'd never signed, caught in a curse I didn't understand. When we reached my room, Ryu opened the door for me, his movements careful, almost gentle. Try to get some rest, he said quietly. I looked up at him, searching his face for something, anything that might give me hope. Do you really think you can break it? The curse? His jaw tightened, and for a moment, he didn't answer. I don't know, he admitted, but we have to try. Why? The question slipped out before I could stop it. Why does it matter if I live or die? You don't know me. You didn't choose me. Something flickered in his eyes. Guilt, maybe, or regret. Because you're here, he said simply. And that makes you our responsibility. The word stung more than it should have. Responsibility, not a person, not someone worth saving for their own sake. Just another burden they hadn't asked for. I stepped into the room, my back to him, my hands trembling at my sides. Good night, Ryu. He hesitated, and I could feel his gaze on me, heavy and conflicted. But then he stepped back, pulling the door closed with a soft click. The moment I was alone, my knees gave out. I sank onto the edge of the bed, my hands covering my face, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps. The tears I'd been holding back finally broke free, hot and silent, streaming down my cheeks. This wasn't fair. None of it was fair. I hadn't asked to be born an Omega, hadn't asked to be invisible in my own family, hadn't asked to be thrown into a contract meant for someone else, and now I was going to die because of it. A soft knock on the door jolted me upright, my heart lurching. Jaehyun! Jaehyun's voice was muffled through the wood. Can I come in? I wiped at my face quickly, my voice shaking. Why? Because I need to talk to you. I wanted to tell him no, wanted to lock the door and shut out the world. But something in his tone made me hesitate. "Fine," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. The door opened, and Jaehyun stepped inside, closing it softly behind him. He looked different now, his expression stripped of that cold, controlled mask he'd worn earlier. He looked tired, human. "I shouldn't have told you about Yumbi like that," he said, his voice low. "It wasn't fair to you." I crossed my arms over my chest, trying to hold myself together. Would there have been a fair way to tell me I'm probably going to die? His jaw tightened, and he looked away, his hands clenched at his sides. "I don't know." Silence stretched between us, thick and uncomfortable. "Why are you really here?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. "To apologize? To make yourself feel better?" "No." He looked at me then, his gaze steady and unflinching. "I'm here because you deserve to know the truth. All of it. I thought I already did. Not everything." He took a step closer, and I instinctively backed up until the backs of my knees hit the bed. "The curse doesn't just kill the people we love, Jaehyun. It feeds on them. On their energy, their life force, everything that makes them who they are. And the stronger the bond, the faster it consumes them." My breath caught. "So if you cared about me, it would kill you faster." His voice was rough, raw. "That's why we can't let ourselves get close to you. That's why Silas acts the way he does. It's not cruelty, it's survival. For you or for me. For both of us." I stared at him, my chest tight, my mind spinning. "Then why keep me here at all? If being close to you is what triggers the curse, why not just let me go? Because the curse has already marked you." His hand lifted, reaching toward me, but he stopped himself, his fingers curling into a fist. "The moment you stepped onto this estate, it recognized you as ours. If you leave now, it won't just let you go. It will hunt you, and it will be worse than anything we could do to you here." The room felt like it was closing in around me, the air too thick to breathe. "So I'm trapped," I whispered. "No matter what I do." "Yes." The honesty in his voice broke something inside me. I sank down onto the bed, my hands shaking, my vision blurring. "This isn't real. This can't be real." Jaehyun crouched down in front of me, his gaze level with mine, and for the first time I saw the weight he carried in his eyes, the exhaustion, the pain. "I wish it wasn't," he said quietly. "But it is, and the only way we survive this is if we're honest with each other. No more lies, no more secrets." I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the cracks in his armor, the vulnerability he tried so hard to hide. "What do you want from me?" I asked, my voice trembling. "I want you to trust us," he said, "even though you have no reason to, even though we've given you every reason not to." "And if I can't?" His gaze softened, and for a moment I thought I saw something almost like hope flicker in his eyes. "Then we'll earn it," he said, "however long it takes." Before I could respond, he stood, turning toward the door. "Jaehyun," I called out, my voice barely audible. He paused, glancing back at me. "What if you can't break the curse?" I whispered. "What if there's no way to save me?" His expression hardened, his jaw tight. "Then we'll die trying." And with that he left, the door closing softly behind him. I sat there in the silence, my heart pounding, my mind racing, and for the first time since I'd arrived, I wondered if maybe, just maybe, these cursed alphas weren't my enemies. Maybe they were just as trapped as I was. I couldn't sleep. The bed was too soft, the room too quiet, my thoughts too loud. I lay there staring at the ceiling, Jaehyun's words looping endlessly through my mind. "Then we'll die trying." What kind of person said something like that? What kind of person looked at a stranger and promised to sacrifice everything for them? I rolled onto my side, pulling the blanket tighter around myself, but the cold I felt had nothing to do with temperature. It was deeper than that. Bone deep, soul deep. A soft sound pulled me from my spiraling thoughts. Footsteps. Not in the hallway, but somewhere below. Faint but deliberate. I sat up slowly, my heart already starting to race. The house was supposed to be quiet at this hour. Everyone asleep. Everyone safe behind their closed doors. But someone was moving. I should have stayed in bed, should have ignored it, pulled the covers over my head, and pretended I heard nothing. But curiosity had always been my weakness. I slipped out of bed, my bare feet silent against the cool floor. The door opened without a sound, and I stepped into the hallway, my pulse thrumming in my ears. The footsteps were clearer now, coming from the staircase at the end of the hall. I followed them, my breath shallow, my hands trembling slightly as I descended the stairs. The main floor was darker than before, only a few dim lights casting long shadows across the walls. And then I saw him, Silas. He stood in the center of the living room, his back to me, his shoulders tense. In his hand was a glass of amber liquid, half empty. He raised it to his lips, draining it in one swift motion before setting it down hard on the table. "You should be asleep." His voice cut through the silence, sharp and knowing, though he still hadn't turned around. I froze, caught. "I could say the same to you. I don't sleep much." He finally turned, and even in the dim light, I could see the exhaustion etched into his features. The sharpness in his eyes was duller now, replaced by something heavier, something broken. "Too many ghosts." I stepped closer, cautious, unsure if I was welcome. "The people you lost?" His jaw tightened. "Among other things." Silence settled between us, thick and uncomfortable. I didn't know what to say, didn't know how to bridge the gap between his hostility and the raw vulnerability I glimpsed beneath it. "Why do you hate me?" The question slipped out before I could stop it. His eyes snapped to mine, and for a moment I thought he might laugh or yell, but he did neither. Instead, he poured another glass, the liquid sloshing slightly as his hand trembled. "I don't hate you. You've done a good job pretending." "I'm not pretending." He took a sip, slower this time, his gaze never leaving mine. "I'm protecting you. By being cruel? By keeping you at a distance." His voice dropped, rough and strained. "Because if I don't, you'll end up like her, like Unbi. And I can't." He stopped himself, his knuckles white around the glass. "I can't watch that happen again." The confession hit me like a blow to the chest. I stepped closer, close enough now that I could see the faint tremor in his hands, the way his breath hitched when he thought I wasn't looking. "You cared about her," I said softly. "Didn't you?" "We all did." His voice cracked, just slightly. "But I was the one who pushed for the bond. I was the one who thought we could beat the curse if we just tried hard enough, if we loved her enough. Silas." And she died screaming. His eyes glistened, though no tears fell. "She begged us to let her go, to end it, but we couldn't. We just stood there and watched her burn from the inside out." My throat tightened, my chest aching for him, for all of them. "That's why you don't want me here," I whispered, "because you're afraid it will happen again." "It will happen again." He set the glass down, his hands shaking now. "The curse doesn't care how much we fight it. It doesn't care how much we want to save you. It will take you, just like it took her. Just like it's taken everyone we've ever—" He stopped, his voice breaking completely. I didn't think. I just moved. I closed the distance between us and wrapped my arms around him, pulling him into an embrace he didn't ask for and probably didn't want. He went rigid, his entire body locking up, and for a moment I thought he might push me away. But then slowly, his arms came up, circling around me, holding me tight. Too tight, like I was the only thing keeping him from falling apart. "I'm sorry," I whispered against his shoulder. "I'm so sorry." His breath shuddered, his face buried in my hair, and I felt the dampness of tears against my skin. We stood there like that, wrapped in the quiet darkness, two broken people clinging to each other because there was nothing else left to hold on to. "You shouldn't be kind to me," he murmured, his voice rough. "It'll only make it harder." "Maybe," I said softly, "but I don't think I can help it." He pulled back slightly, just enough to look down at me, his eyes red-rimmed and raw. "You're going to break my heart, Omega," he whispered. "Only if you let me." A bitter smile tugged at his lips. "That's the problem. I don't think I have a choice." Before I could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed from the hallway. We both turned as Ryu appeared in the doorway, his expression unreadable. His gaze flicked between us, lingering on the way Silas's arms were still wrapped around me. "What's going on?" Ryu's voice was calm, but there was an edge to it. Concern. Maybe something else. Silas released me immediately, stepping back, his walls slamming back into place. "Nothing. Just having a conversation." Ryu's eyes narrowed slightly, but he didn't push. Instead, he looked at me. "You should get some rest, Jaehyun. It's late." "I'm fine," I said, though my voice sounded shakier than I intended. "No, you're not." Ryu stepped closer, his gaze softening. "And neither are we. But standing here in the dark isn't going to fix that." He was right. I knew he was right. But leaving felt like abandoning something fragile, something that might shatter the moment I turned my back. Silas met my gaze, and for just a second, I saw the plea in his eyes. "Go. Before I say something I can't take back." So I did. I walked past Ryu, my heart heavy, my mind spinning. But just before I reached the stairs, I heard Silas's voice, barely a whisper. "She's different, Ryu. This one's different." And Ryu's response, quiet but firm. "I know. That's what scares me." I didn't wait to hear more. I climbed the stairs, my legs trembling, my chest tight with emotions I didn't have names for. And when I finally collapsed back onto my bed, I realized something terrifying. I was starting to care about them, all three of them. And if the curse fed on love, then I was already doomed. My heart wouldn't stop racing. I lay there in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, every nerve in my body still buzzing from what had just happened downstairs. Silas's arms around me, the weight of his grief, the way he'd looked at me like I was both his salvation and his destruction. "She's different. This one's different." The words echoed in my mind over and over until I couldn't tell if they were a promise or a warning. I pressed my hands against my chest, trying to steady my breathing, but it was useless. Everything felt too big, too overwhelming, too real. A soft creak made me freeze. My door was opening, slowly, carefully. I sat up, my breath catching in my throat, and in the sliver of light from the hallway, I saw him. Jaehyun. He stood in the doorway, his silhouette tall and imposing, his expression hidden in shadow. "I heard you leave your room," he said quietly. "And then I heard you come back." My throat tightened. "You were listening?" "I was making sure you were safe." He stepped inside, closing the door behind him with a soft click. The darkness swallowed us both, leaving only the faint outline of his form. "You shouldn't be wandering the house alone at night." "Why not?" I pulled the blanket tighter around myself, suddenly aware of how vulnerable I felt. "Afraid I'll uncover more of your secrets?" "Afraid you'll get hurt." His voice was closer now. He'd moved without me hearing, standing at the foot of my bed. "This house isn't safe, Jaehyun. Not for you. Nothing about this place is safe for me." My voice came out sharper than I intended. "You made that clear." Silence. Then slowly he moved to the side of the bed, lowering himself to sit on the edge. The mattress dipped under his weight, and I could feel the heat radiating from his body even through the layers of blankets between us. "I know you're scared," he said, his voice softer now. "And I know you have every right to be. But I need you to understand something." "What?" He turned to look at me, and even in the darkness, I could feel the intensity of his gaze. "We're not your enemies. No matter how it feels right now, no matter what Silas says or how I act. We don't want to hurt you." "Then let me go." The words tumbled out before I could stop them. "If you really don't want to hurt me, just let me leave." "I can't." His hand moved, reaching toward me, but stopping, just short of touching. "The curse won't let you go. And if you try to run, it will be worse than anything you can imagine." "How do you know that?" My voice trembled. "How do you know what the curse will do if you've never tried to let anyone go?" His jaw tightened, and I saw the muscles in his neck flex. "Because we did try. Once." My breath caught. "What happened?" "She made it 3 miles before she collapsed." His voice was hollow, distant. "By the time we found her, she was already dying. The curse had burned through her from the inside. She was still conscious when we carried her back, still begging us to save her. But there was nothing we could do." I felt sick. "That was Yunbi?" I whispered. No, he shook his head slowly. Before her. Someone else we tried to protect by pushing away. The weight of his confession settled over me like a heavy blanket, suffocating and inescapable. How many? I asked, my voice barely audible. How many people have you lost? He didn't answer right away. His hand finally closed the distance, his fingers brushing against mine where they clutched the blanket. The touch was feather-light, hesitant, as though he was afraid I might break. Too many, he said finally. I looked down at where our hands almost touched, my heart hammering in my chest. Every instinct told me to pull away, to protect myself, to keep the distance that might save my life. But I didn't. Instead, I turned my hand over, letting my palm rest against his. His breath hitched, and his fingers slowly curled around mine, warm and solid and achingly gentle. You shouldn't do that, he whispered, but he didn't let go. Why not? Because it makes it real. His thumb traced a slow circle against my skin, sending shivers up my arm. Because the more we touch, the more we talk, the more the curse recognizes you as ours. Maybe I don't care anymore. The confession spilled out of me, raw and honest. Maybe I'm tired of being afraid. You should be afraid. His grip tightened just slightly. Fear's what keeps you alive. And what about you? I turned to face him fully, my eyes searching for his in the darkness. Are you afraid? For a long moment, he said nothing. Then so quietly I almost didn't hear it. Terrified. The single word broke something open inside me. I shifted closer, closing the space between us, until I could feel his breath against my skin, warm and unsteady. Then why are you here? I whispered. In my room, holding my hand. If you're so afraid, why not just stay away? His free hand lifted, his fingers brushing against my cheek with a tenderness that made my chest ache. Because I can't. His voice was rough, strained. I've tried. God, I've tried. But every time I walk away from you, something pulls me back. The curse? Maybe. His forehead lowered until it rested against mine, and I felt his breath shudder. Or maybe it's something worse. What could be worse than a curse? Caring about you anyway. The confession hung in the air between us, fragile and devastating. I should have pulled away, should have remembered Yunbi, remembered the woman who died trying to run, remembered every warning they'd given me. But instead I tilted my head up, my lips barely an inch from his. Jaehyun, I breathed. Don't! His voice cracked. Don't ask me to do this. I'm not asking. And then I closed the distance. The moment my lips touched his, everything else disappeared. The curse, the fear, the impossible situation we were trapped in. All of it faded into nothing, leaving only the heat of his mouth against mine, the desperate way his hand tangled in my hair, the broken sound that escaped his throat. He kissed me like a drowning man gasping for air, like I was the only thing keeping him tethered to this world. And I kissed him back with everything I had, pouring all my fear and confusion and impossible, terrifying feelings into that single moment of contact. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathless, both trembling. We shouldn't have done that, he whispered against my lips. I know. It's only going to make things worse. I know. His hand cupped my face, his thumb brushing across my cheekbone. I can't lose you too, Jaehyun. I can't survive it again. Then don't let me go, I whispered back. His eyes closed and I felt the shudder that ran through him. I'm trying, he said, his voice breaking. I'm trying so hard. And as he pulled me into his arms, holding me like I might disappear at any moment, I realized the terrible truth. The curse wasn't the only thing that could destroy us. Our feelings for each other might kill us first. Jaehyun held me like I was made of glass, his arms wrapped around me, tight but careful, his face buried in my hair as his breath came in the uneven waves against my neck. I could feel his heartbeat through his chest, rapid and erratic, matching the frantic rhythm of my own. Neither of us spoke. We just stayed there, tangled together in the darkness, as if moving might break whatever fragile thing had formed between us. But the silence couldn't last forever. You should sleep, he murmured against my hair, though his grip didn't loosen. I can't. My voice was barely a whisper. Not after that. After what? The kiss? After everything. I pulled back just enough to look up at him, my hand still fisted in his shirt. After learning I'm going to die, after watching Silas break down, after you, I trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. His thumb traced the line of my jaw, slow and reverent. After I what? After you made me feel something I shouldn't. The confession tore out of me, raw and honest. I came here hating this, hating you, hating everything about this situation. But now don't say it. His voice turned sharp, desperate. Please don't say it. Why not? Because once you do, there's no taking it back. His eyes searched mine, and I saw the fear there, naked and unguarded. And the curse will know. My breath hitched. It already knows, doesn't it? That's why you're here. That's why you kissed me back. He didn't answer, but the way his jaw tightened told me everything. A sound outside the door made us both freeze. Footsteps, heavy and deliberate. Jaehyun pulled away from me immediately, rising from the bed, his body going rigid. Stay here. What's happening? I don't know. He moved toward the door, his hand reaching for the handle. But before he could open it, the door burst inward. Silas stood there, his chest heaving, his eyes wild. Behind him, Ryu appeared, his expression tight with worry. We have a problem, Silas said, his voice strained. Jaehyun's entire demeanor shifted, the softness from moments ago vanishing behind cold authority. What kind of problem? The kind that involves your Omega's family showing up at our gate demanding to see him. My stomach dropped. What? I scrambled off the bed, my legs unsteady. My family's here? Now? Silas's gaze cut to me, sharp and assessing. Your stepfather and some man I've never seen before. They're claiming breach of contract. That's impossible. Jaehyun's voice was ice. The contract is ironclad. They delivered an Omega heir. The terms are satisfied. Apparently not. Ryu stepped into the room, his tone measured but tense. They're saying the contract specified Minho by name, and since Jaehyun isn't Minho, the agreement is void. That's not what the contract says, Jaehyun bit out. Then they're lying. Silas crossed his arms, his jaw tight. Or they found a loophole we didn't see. My mind spun, panic clawing at my chest. Why would they do this? They're the ones who sent me here. They forced me into this. Because something changed. Ryu's eyes met mine, and I saw the grim understanding there. Something made them want you back. Or someone, Silas added darkly. The implication hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Minho, I whispered. He came back. Jaehyun's fists clenched at his sides. Then they're trying to trade you back for him. They can't do that. My voice shook. Can they? Legally? No. Jaehyun turned to face me fully, his expression hard. But if they claim fraud, if they push this to arbitration, it could tie us up in legal battles for months. And in that time, he didn't finish, but he didn't have to. In that time, the curse would have already killed me. So what do we do? I asked, my voice small. Silas let out a harsh laugh. We tell them to go to hell. That's not a solution, Ryu said quietly. Neither is letting them take him back. Silas's eyes blazed. You know what will happen if he leaves. The curse won't just let him walk away. I know. Ryu's voice was strained. But if we refuse and they escalate, it could expose things we can't afford to have exposed. Like what? I looked between them, my heart hammering. What are you talking about? Jaehyun's jaw worked, tension radiating from every line of his body. Our family has enemies, powerful ones. If they find out about the curse, about our vulnerabilities, they'll use it against us. And they'll use you as leverage, Silas added, his tone bitter. The room felt like it was closing in on me. So I'm a liability now, I said flatly. That's what you're saying. No. Jaehyun moved toward me, his hand reaching for mine, but I stepped back. Don't. My voice cracked. Don't touch me. Don't pretend this is about protecting me when all you care about is protecting yourselves. That's not fair, Ryu said softly. Fair? I let out a bitter laugh. Nothing about this has been fair. I was forced here, told I'm going to die, made to feel things I shouldn't. And now my family wants to take me back like I'm some piece of property they can trade? Daehyun. Jaehyun's voice was rough. You're not property. You're... What? I challenged, tears burning in my eyes. What am I to you? Really? He opened his mouth, but no words came out. The silence was damning. That's what I thought. I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to hold the pieces together. So what happens now? Do you hand me over? Do you fight them? Or do you just let the curse decide for all of us? We fight. Silas's voice cut through the tension like a blade. We don't give them anything. And if that makes things worse, Ryu asked, then things get worse. Silas's gaze locked onto mine, fierce and unyielding. But we don't give him up. Not to them, not to anyone. Something in my chest cracked at the conviction in his voice. Jaehyun stepped closer, and this time I didn't move away. He's right, Jaehyun said quietly. You're not going anywhere. Contract or no contract, curse or no curse. You're ours now. The possessiveness in his tone should have terrified me. Instead, it made me feel safe. So what do we tell them? I whispered. Jaehyun's expression hardened into something cold and lethal. We tell them to leave. And if they refuse, his eyes met mine, dark and absolute. We remind them why people fear the Choi family. A chill ran down my spine. But beneath the fear was something else, something that felt dangerously close to hope. I'll go with you, I said, my voice steadier now. When you face them, I'll tell them myself that I'm staying. No. All three of them spoke at once. Yes. I lifted my chin, meeting each of their gazes in turn. This is my life, my choice, and I'm done being treated like I don't have a say in what happens to me. Jaehyun stared at me for a long moment, something like pride flickering in his eyes. All right, he said finally, but you stay behind us. And if things turn dangerous? I know. I swallowed hard. I run. No. His hand cupped my face, gentle despite the steel in his voice. You let us protect you. And as we moved toward the door together, the four of us bound by something neither contract nor curse could fully explain, I realized the truth. I wasn't just fighting for my life anymore. I was fighting for theirs too. The walk down the hallway felt like marching toward execution. My legs moved on autopilot, one foot in front of the other, while my heart hammered so violently I thought it might break through my ribs. Jaehyun walked beside me, his presence solid and unyielding, while Silas and Ryu flanked us like guards. None of them spoke. The silence was suffocating. When we reached the grand staircase, I could see them through the tall windows overlooking the entrance. Two figures stood outside the iron gate, illuminated by the estate's security lights. My stepfather. And beside him, unmistakable even from a distance, was Minho. My breath caught. He looked different, thinner, his posture less confident than I remembered. But it was him, the golden son, the one who'd run away and left me to pay for his choices. Stay close, Jaehyun murmured, his hand finding the small of my back. The touch grounded me, steadied the trembling that had started in my hands. We descended the stairs together, moving through the house toward the front entrance. When Jaehyun pushed open the heavy door, the cool night air hit my face, sharp and bracing. My stepfather's eyes locked onto me immediately. Daehyun! His voice was clipped, authoritative, the same tone he'd used when he'd ordered me into the car days ago. Come here, now! I didn't move. Jaehyun stepped forward instead, positioning himself slightly in front of me. State your business. My stepfather's jaw tightened. My business is with my son, not with you. Stepson, I corrected, my voice shakier than I wanted. And I'm not going anywhere. Minho's gaze shifted to me then, and something flickered across his face. Guilt, maybe, or regret, but it was gone too quickly for me to be sure. Daehyun, please. Minho's voice was softer than my stepfather's, almost pleading. This was never supposed to happen. You weren't supposed to be here. But I am here. My hands curled into fists at my sides. Because you disappeared. Because you ran away. I had to. Minho took a step closer to the gate, his hands gripping the iron bars. I found out about the curse, about what happens to people who get too close to them. I couldn't go through with it. So you let me take your place instead. The words tasted bitter on my tongue. You let them throw me into the fire. I didn't know they would do that. Minho's voice rose, desperate. I thought they'd cancel the contract. I thought they'd find another way. You thought wrong, Silas said coldly from behind me. My stepfather's attention snapped to Silas, his expression hardening. This contract was signed under false pretenses. You were promised Minho, not some replacement. The contract specifies an Omega heir from the Kang family, Jaehyun replied, his tone like ice. Daehyun qualifies. The terms have been met. That's a matter of interpretation. My stepfather pulled a folded document from his jacket, holding it up. Our lawyers have reviewed the language. Minho's name appears 6 times in the agreement. This contract is void. Then take it to court, Ryu said quietly. But Daehyun stays here. Like hell he does. My stepfather's voice turned sharp, dangerous. He's coming home. Tonight. No. The word came out of me before I could think, firm and absolute. I'm not. Everyone's attention turned to me. My stepfather's eyes narrowed. What did you say? I said no. I stepped forward, moving out from behind Jaehyun, despite the protective hand he tried to place on my shoulder. I'm not going back with you. Daehyun, don't be stupid. My stepfather's tone turned condescending. You have no idea what you're dealing with. These men are dangerous. They're cursed. Everyone who gets close to them dies. I know. My voice didn't waver. They told me everything. And you still want to stay? Minho's voice was incredulous. Do you have a death wish? Maybe. I looked at him directly, seeing him clearly for the first time in my life. The golden son who'd never had to sacrifice anything, who'd never had to be anything other than favored. Or maybe I'm tired of being treated like I don't matter, like I'm just some convenient replacement for you. That's not, Minho started, but I cut him off. It is. My throat tightened, but I forced the words out. You got to choose, Minho. You got to run away, to save yourself, to put your own life first. But me? I never got a choice. Not when they sent me here. Not when they decided my life was worth less than yours. So now I'm making one. By choosing to die? My stepfather's voice was harsh. By staying with people who will kill you? By choosing myself for once. Tears burned in my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. By deciding that if I'm going to die anyway, it's going to be on my terms, not yours. Silence fell, heavy and absolute. Minho's face crumpled. Daehyun, please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But you have to come home. I can't lose you like this. You already lost me. My voice broke. The moment you ran away and left me to clean up your mess. We can fix this. My stepfather's tone shifted, taking on a false warmth. Come home, we'll cancel the contract. We'll pay whatever penalties necessary. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. I looked back at Jaehyun, at Silas, at Ryu. 3 alphas who'd shown me more honesty in days than my family had in years. Because they need me. And maybe I need them too. Jaehyun's hand found mine, his fingers lacing through my own. The touch was gentle, possessive, final. Daehyun is staying, Jaehyun said, his voice carrying absolute authority. And if you try to take him by force, you'll discover exactly why people fear the Choi name. My stepfather's face went red. You're making a mistake. No. I squeezed Jaehyun's hand, drawing strength from his presence. For the first time in my life, I'm making the right choice. My stepfather stared at me for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he turned to Minho. Let's go. But, Minho's voice cracked. Now. Minho looked at me one last time, his eyes glistening. I really am sorry. I said nothing. There was nothing left to say. As they turned and walked back toward their car, I felt something inside me shift, break, rebuild itself into something stronger. The gate remained closed behind them, and when their taillights disappeared into the darkness, Jaehyun pulled me into his arms. You're brave, he murmured against my hair. Braver than you know. I'm terrified, I admitted, my voice muffled against his chest. So are we. Silas's hand touched my shoulder, gentle despite his usual sharpness. But we'll face it together. Ryu moved to my other side, completing the circle around me. Together, he echoed softly. And for the first time since I'd arrived at this cursed estate, I felt like I belonged somewhere, even if that somewhere might kill me. We stood there in the silence, the four of us bound together in the darkness. As the taillights of my family's car faded into nothing, I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt hollow. Come inside, Rue said gently, his hand still resting on my shoulder. You're shaking. I hadn't realized I was. Jaehyun guided me back toward the house, his arm wrapped protectively around my waist. Silas walked behind us, his presence a shield against the night. When we crossed the threshold, the warmth of the house hit me, but it did nothing to chase away the cold that had settled deep in my bones. You did the right thing, Jaehyun said quietly, leading me toward the living room. Did I? My voice came out small, uncertain. I just burned every bridge I had left. They burned those bridges themselves. Silas's tone was sharp. The moment they sent you here like a sacrificial lamb. I sank onto the couch, my legs finally giving out. My hands trembled in my lap, and I couldn't seem to make them stop. Ryu crouched in front of me, his eyes soft with concern. Do you regret it? Choosing to stay? I opened my mouth to answer, but the words caught in my throat. Did I regret it? I looked at each of them in turn. Jaehyun, standing tall and protective, despite the exhaustion in his eyes. Silas, his usual sharpness softened by something that looked almost like hope. Ryu, patient and gentle, waiting for my answer without judgment. No, I whispered finally. I don't regret it. Something shifted in the air between us. Jaehyun moved closer, sitting beside me on the couch. His hand found mine, warm and steady. Then we'll make sure you never have to. How? The question broke out of me, desperate and raw. How do we fight something we can't even see? How do we beat a curse that's killed everyone you've ever cared about? We find a way. Silas's voice was firm, absolute. We've been researching for years. There has to be something we haven't tried yet. But what if there isn't? My voice cracked. What if I'm just like Unbi? What if in 3 months I'm begging you to let me go too? Then we don't let you, Jaehyun said quietly. We hold on tighter. Tears spilled down my cheeks before I could stop them. Ryu reached up, his thumb gently brushing them away. You're not alone in this, Jaehyun. Whatever happens, we face it together. Together, Silas echoed, his voice rough. I looked at them, these 3 broken alphas who'd somehow become my anchor in the storm, and felt something crack open inside my chest. I'm scared, I admitted, my voice barely a whisper. So are we, Jaehyun said. His hand cupped my face, tilting my chin up so I had to meet his eyes. But fear doesn't mean we give up. What does it mean then? It means we fight harder. His thumb traced my cheekbone, gentle and reverent. It means we don't waste whatever time we have. The weight of his words settled over me, heavy and bittersweet. Silas moved closer, sitting on my other side. His hand found my free one, lacing our fingers together. We've spent years keeping people at a distance, pushing away anyone who got too close. But you, he paused, his jaw working. You walked into our lives and refused to be pushed away. I didn't have a choice, I said softly. You did tonight. Ryu's voice was barely above a whisper. You chose us. Even knowing what it might cost you. Because the alternative was worse. I looked down at our joined hands, 3 points of connection anchoring me to them. Going back to a family that never wanted me. Living a life where I didn't matter. That would have killed me just as surely as any curse. Jaehyun's grip tightened. You matter to us. The confession hung in the air, fragile and precious. Why? I asked, looking up at him. You barely know me. Because you're strong. His eyes searched mine. Stronger than you realize. You survived a family that treated you like you were nothing. You walked into our cursed home knowing you might die. And tonight, you stood up to the people who hurt you and chose yourself. That takes courage most people never find. I don't feel courageous. My voice trembled. I feel terrified. Courage isn't the absence of fear. Ryu's hand covered both of mine and Silas's. It's choosing to act despite it. Silence fell, but it was different now. Not suffocating or heavy, just present. What happens now? I asked finally. Now, Jaehyun said, we figure out how to break this curse. Together. And if we can't, his jaw tightened, but his voice remained steady. Then we make every moment count. The finality in his tone sent a shiver through me. Silas leaned in, his forehead resting against my temple. I'm sorry I was cruel to you at first. I thought if I could make you hate us, you'd be safer. But I was wrong. You were protecting yourself, I said softly. No. His breath was warm against my skin. I was being a coward. I turned my head slightly, meeting his gaze. Up close, I could see the vulnerability he tried so hard to hide, the fear beneath the sharpness. You're not a coward, Silas. His eyes darkened. You don't know what I've done, what I've let happen. Then tell me. For a moment I thought he might. His lips parted, words trembling on the edge of confession. But then his gaze shifted, focusing on something behind me. His entire body went rigid. What? I started to turn, but his hand shot out, gripping my shoulder. Don't move, he said, his voice tight. Jaehyun stood abruptly, his expression hardening. Ryu, check the wards. Ryu was already moving, crossing to the window. When he pulled back the curtain, his face went pale. They're failing, he said quietly. My heart stopped. What's failing? The protection wards. Jaehyun's voice was controlled, but I heard the edge of panic beneath it. The ones that keep the curse contained to the estate grounds. I don't understand. I looked between them, fear clawing at my throat. What does that mean? It means the curse is evolving. Silas's hand tightened on my shoulder. It's never done this before. Why now? My voice rose. What changed? Jaehyun's eyes met mine, and I saw the terrible understanding there. You, he said quietly, you changed everything. The room spun. What are you saying? The curse feeds on our bonds. Ryu turned from the window, his expression grim. The stronger our connection to someone, the more power it has. And you, he trailed off, but the implication was clear. I'm making it stronger, I whispered. No. Jaehyun moved back to my side, his hands cupping my face. You're not making it stronger. You're making it desperate. I don't understand. The curse wants us isolated, alone, broken. His thumbs brushed across my cheeks. But you're healing us. You're making us whole again. And it can't allow that. So what does it do instead? Silence. Then Ryu spoke, his voice barely audible. It tries to eliminate the threat. The words hit me like ice water. You mean me? I said flatly. I'm the threat. Yes. Jaehyun's voice cracked. Which means the curse is going to come for you harder than it's ever come for anyone. My breath came in short gasps. When? Soon. Silas stood, his body tense. The wards won't hold much longer. Then we reinforce them, Ryu said. We have time. Do we? Silas's voice was sharp. Look at him, Ryu. Really look. All three of them turned to stare at me. I felt it then. A heat spreading through my chest, faint but growing, like something was waking up inside me. What's happening to me? I whispered. Jaehyun's face went white. No, not yet. It's too soon. What's too soon? Panic edged into my voice. Someone tell me what's happening. The bond, Ryu said quietly. It's trying to form between you and all three of us. My heart hammered. But that's what killed Yunbi. The bond was too strong. I know. Jaehyun pulled me against his chest, his arms wrapping around me like a shield. I know. Then stop it. I clutched at his shirt, my voice breaking. Don't let it happen. We can't stop it. Silas's voice was hollow. Once the curse decides to activate the bond, there's no going back. Then I'll leave. I tried to pull away from Jaehyun, but his grip tightened. I'll go far enough that the curse can't reach me. It won't work. Ryu's voice was gentle but final. The curse has already marked you. Distance won't save you now. Then what will? Tears streamed down my face. There has to be something. Jaehyun pulled back just enough to look into my eyes. There might be, he said slowly. But it's never been tried. What is it? He exchanged glances with Silas and Ryu. Some silent communication passed between them. We complete the bond, Jaehyun said finally. Fully, all three of us, before the curse can. My breath caught. But that's what killed Unbi. Unbi tried to bond with us one at a time. Silas stepped closer. The curse picked her apart piece by piece. But if we all bond simultaneously, if we merge our strengths, we might be strong enough to survive it, Ryu finished. Might? My voice cracked on the word. It's a chance. Jaehyun's eyes burned into mine. The only one we have. The heat in my chest intensified, spreading through my limbs. I could feel it now. The pull toward all three of them. Like invisible threads binding us together, growing tighter with every passing second. How long do we have? I whispered. Ryu checked the window again. Hours, maybe less. Then we don't have time to debate. Silas's jaw was set. We do this now, or we lose him. Jaehyun's hands trembled against my face. Daehyun, he said, his voice raw. This is your choice. No one will force you, but you need to understand what you're agreeing to. If this doesn't work, I'll die anyway, I finished for him. Yes. I looked at each of them. These three cursed alphas who'd become everything to me in such a short time. And I realized the truth. I was already bonded to them in every way that mattered. Then let's do it, I said. Jaehyun's eyes closed, a shudder running through him. Together, I whispered. He opened his eyes and I saw everything there. Fear, hope, love. Together, he echoed. Silas and Ryu moved closer, completing the circle around me. The heat in my chest flared, burning brighter. And as their hands touched my skin, as their scents surrounded me, as the bond began to pull us together, I felt the curse rise up to meet us, like a tidal wave, like death itself. Jaehyun's lips found mine, desperate and claiming. Don't let go, he whispered against my mouth. The world began to blur. My heart raced. The curse screamed. And in that final moment before everything shattered, one thought crystallized in my mind. I chose this. I chose them. And whatever came next, the bond snapped into place. Pain exploded through every nerve. I screamed. And then, did the simultaneous bond work? Will Daehyun survive? What happens when the curse and the bond collide? Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as can ever imagine. So do check it out. If that ending wrecked you, hit subscribe. The next chapter drops soon.